Hi, this is Matt from Babu Sabers. I just wanted to go over real quick two different types of soundboards that we sell the most of and why these are the two that we recommend the most. So I'm going to be comparing two and kind of giving you a comparison and contrast and what each benefit to each board is and each negative to each board is. So what I'm going to start with is the Golden Harvest. As you see, I just triggered it by accident. But the main thing for a Golden Harvest is it's very user friendly, and everything can be edited directly with the Saber. There's no computer required. Now I know this will change with Profi OS 6, but as of right now, there is no way to edit everything on a Profi separately. So the basics of the Golden Harvest are, it's very easy to change color, and you still have all your gesture ignitions, which people are huge on. So real quick, you got swing on, right? Twist off, and then you have all the stab on and stab off as well. The biggest thing is how easy it is to switch between fonts and how to edit the lightsaber. You just hold the auxiliary button. Sound menu. And you can switch.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. I suggest you try it again. I suggest you try it again.
And you see how you can rotate between each, going back and forth. There's not a set way to go back and forth. You can go whichever order you want to go, depending on which way you want to twist the hilt. So when you turn right, you're going forward. When you're going left, you're going backwards in the font selection.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. I suggest you try it again, Luke.
We'll go with Vader just because. When you hear that little click, that means you've now selected it. You turn it on just like that, just like any other lightsaber. Blaster blocks are the auxiliary. Right? Now lockup, that's the only thing that's a little tricky with the Golden Harvest, is it's a hold and then click, and then it will keep going until you click it again, as opposed to clashing and holding. I would say the main benefit to these are that, first off, it's extremely loud. I had to turn the volume down on this one. The amount of volume that they push out is much higher than a Profi somehow. With the exact same speaker, exact same setup, this lightsaber is still louder. And I'm not exactly sure how they're pulling that off, but it is much louder. The other benefit that I'm going to show you real quick is how to edit everything off of the lightsaber. For example, color change. I'll show you real fast. So all you have to do for color change is you hold the auxiliary button and then click. And that's it, and it locks it in. That's what it is. But then you also have what's called Saber Editor. So if I hold this to turn it back off, if I hold it down and hold the power button and then release and then hold again, what will happen is I'll go into Saber Editor mode.
Saber Editor.
And
select mode.
And you hear select mode, and you can change between each mode and then edit it. I'm not going to, because this is set for a specific customer already, but
color profile.
So that's color change.
Pixel number.
So that's changing where your blade will start and end. So if you have a different length blade that you want to use for this particular hilt, you can swap it out on the fly and change it.
Ignition speed.
So again, ignition speed to not match whatever font you have.
Retraction speed.
Again, retraction speed to match whatever font you have.
Battle configuration.
And that will configure, I'm pretty sure, all your blaster blocks and clashes and what colors those will go with.
Gesture controls.
That will control if you have gesture controls or not, and which ones you want to lock in.
Effect font slot.
And so that will change, like if you want it to look unstable, if you want it to have like a frozen look, you want the Canon audio flicker, how fast the audio flicker goes.
Save and leave Saber Editor.
And then to exit, you just hold again. And now everything that you would have changed would be saved. The other nice thing about Golden Harvest is that it has deep sleep. So after 5 minutes, it will shut itself off. This is it, I'm done with it. Pretty great. I love that part of it. Now, into Proffi. The difficult part with Proffi is programming, as well as there's no dedicated deep sleep. It just has what's called an idle time off. So essentially what that is it puts it in a low voltage mode, but it's still pulling power. The problem with that is that eventually it will run out of power. Like I would say it probably can sit on the shelf for a basic build like this that doesn't have a crystal chamber or anything, will probably last, I want to say, a month and a half to 2 months on the shelf. Now the Golden Harvest will last probably about, I'd say 5 to 6 months on the shelf before it would actually drain the battery. And so that's why deep sleep is nice. It's also nice for Comic Cons, right? So if you cosplay or anything like that, you can just put it on your hip and you're done. Proffi, you can't do that. So I'm gonna show you real quick. If you have a kill key or a recharge port, you have to first take that out to turn on the lightsaber. Right? That's the only way that you can do it. That's the one thing that I will definitely give the edge for the Golden Harvest is the deep sleep. All right. And then everything else, you know, it's got the gesture ignitions, blaster blocks, all that fun stuff. But the change between fonts, right, is a little bit more, I don't want to say difficult, but I want to say it's not as easy to go back and forth the fonts, right? So I have to hold and release. If you have 2 buttons set up, which I don't for this one, you would just click the aux. But to go backwards, I have to hold. Go back that way. The other thing that the Proffi has that the Golden Harvest is not is lightning block. I would say that's another big thing that I'm a big fan of that does not have. They both have drag, they both have melt, they both have accent swings, both have clash. I'm pretty sure Proffi has spin and stab, but I'm not sure that many people use it. I know Golden Harvest does for sure. The other thing that Golden Harvest is just different, and it's not exactly one is better than the other. It can play any of the tracks that you load on it on any font. So you select. So as soon as I play a track, right, I now can select the aux and change the track to whatever's on here. Now for Proffi, it's 1 track per font. So all I can play is the one music for this one. So that's the only thing. I wouldn't say there's an edge to either, because I prefer a specific track for each font, where that's not really possible with the Golden Harvest. You pretty much have to play the track and then get to the one that you want to get to. Proffi is just whatever is with that font. So I'm going to change fonts real quick. Right? So it's per font, per track, as opposed to as many tracks as you want to go. I think it's up to 16. That's the other thing with Golden Harvest. It's 16 fonts, and I'm pretty sure that's the limit. That's all you can fit on there. And I say all as if that's like limiting, but it's really not. Now, the Proffieboard will fit as many as you can, as long as your blade styles, which we're going to get to that in a second, aren't super complicated, or if you double them up. So if you have, say, a blue font with audio flicker, and then you do a green font with audio flicker, and it's very similar in the style, it won't eat up as much memory on the board, because the board is what holds the blade styles, not the SD card. Golden Harvest, everything is on the SD card, right? The only thing that the SD cards does for a Proffi is holds the sounds. That is it. It does not, you cannot configure it from the SD card. So that's the negative to Proffi as well. is there's a little bit of programming to learn. And I say little bit because most of it is just copying and pasting. And once you learn it, it's very, very easy and it goes very quick. But if you're starting out, I would say Golden Harvest would be a starter board. And that's kind of where you want to start if you want to mess with sounds and editing and really trying to understand how to change what your lightsaber looks like. Once you've got that figured out, then you can move on to Proffi. And that's when you start to get some really complicated blade styles, some really complicated stuff. You know, there's the lockups all change, can be based on animated series, the prequels, the original trilogy, the sequel trilogy, the swing can be based on. There's just so many different things, and it's unlimited because it's what's called open source, which means anybody that knows how to program, fully program, can kind of make it do whatever they want. I'm sure there's limits, but I don't know if we found those yet. The other thing I would say is that I think the smooth swing algorithm for Proffi is better. So that's the other difference, right? Is the smooth swing algorithm. The other thing I want to say for the video, the reason my Proffi sounds louder is just because it's a different crop flex. It's not the same crop flex. If I take both bottoms off, actually I probably can do that. The Golden Harvest is much louder. Like this, I can tell from sitting here, I can hold these out, and the Golden Harvest is much, much louder. The only reason that the Proffi sounds louder is because one's a KR, the other's an 89 Sabers. It's just a difference in the quality of hilt, that's all it is. But I would definitely say if you're going to start out, I would stick with Golden Harvest. There's a lot there. There's melt, there's drag. You've got lockup, you've got blaster blocks. You have a lot of stuff that you can kind of edit on the fly with your lightsaber. So if you're not completely computer savvy, that's a great board to go with. I actually would choose it over Crystal Focus just because there's things in there that it has that Crystal Focus does not, like melt and the gesture ignitions. That's huge, right? Everybody is super into that right now. And so I would say it's actually a big competitor of Proffi. Just because of that alone. A big thing that, a reason that you would pick a Proffi is for crystal chambers, right? Well, I just did a crystal chamber with a Golden Harvest, and this is wired in line, and I still was able to program the crystal chamber as a separate, like, sub blade. That's how you would define it for a Proffi if you wanted it to do something different than the blade, but wired it all together, if that makes sense. And you can do it up to 8 accents. So you can tell it's not lining up the blade, but you also can make it line up with the blade.
Sound menu.
Obi-Wan can... What about that, Jeff? What is it? Father's light.
Like this one, I have it lined up to do exactly what the blade does. But as you saw with the Vader, I didn't. So you can change it based on however you want, just like you can with the Proffi. It's just a little bit easier to edit, and there's a little bit less than you can do. And I say a little bit lightly, because Proffi's limitless, so it's pretty hard to compete with, but the learning curve is pretty big. So it's just you have to decide what you want out of your lightsaber. Obviously, everybody always wants the best, but the thing is, what you have to keep in mind is if you're not savvy with a computer and you're really not going to use a Proffi to its full capabilities, there is no point in getting one. It's a cheaper board now, which is crazy, but the Golden Harvest is now a cheaper board. It's a cheaper install because it's very easy to solder. And if you're not happy with how it's edited, you don't have to worry about learning all this stuff. You can literally edit it on the fly from the lightsaber, not even with the computer. If you want to do it with the computer, you can, but you don't have to. So that's a quick comparison between the Golden Harvest V3 and the Proffieboard v2.2. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out. Also, I'm sure I'll go into a more in-depth video, and I will actually do each feature next to each other with a blade in at some point. But I don't want to make an hour-long video. So just basics, I'll recap it real quick. Golden Harvest, very user-friendly. Has melt, drag, lockup, blaster blocks, clash, tracks, 16 fonts, gesture controls, can edit everything right from the lightsaber, don't need a computer. For the Proffi, lightning block, limitless, potentially limitless sound fonts depending on how much the board can handle. You need a recharge port for a kill key, or you need a kill switch. Has to be killed. You cannot let the power just run to it. That's one negative. You need to be somewhat savvy with the computer, nothing crazy. And then the blade styles can get nuts. The one thing it does have that Golden Harvest does not, lightning block. And then there's also what's called multi-phaser. Forgot to bring that up too. You can have the blade ignited and you turn it and it will change the font while the blade's lit up. That's one thing that does not have. This also currently does not have the ability to edit everything right from the lightsaber. You have to use the computer fully currently, but that should be changing soon. So yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and I think that's everywhere. So have a good day.